Fortnite Chapter 3 was one of the most interesting chapters we've had, and that's mainly for the fact that they were really good seasons, but there were others that fell a bit flat. So today I'm going to be ranking them on a tier list from S to D and seeing how good they are. And some of my choices may shock you, so stay till the end to see if they do. And basically the tier list is S being the best, A being a strong season, B being a decent season, C being average, and D being it could have been improved. Okay, so let's start with Season 1, and I actually really loved the way they introduced this map. They introduced Chapter 3's map by flipping Chapter 2's to reveal it on the other side, and I thought that was a really cool and unique feature they did. With a new chapter, they introduced a new mechanic, and they introduced sliding into the game, which was really cool. And in my opinion, this might be one of the most useful features Fortnite has added, because it allows you to actually travel faster around the map, and it allows you to go faster down steep terrain. And this season introduced Unreal Engine 5, which updated graphics and made for some cool gameplay. Features like the pine trees that would fall over. In this season they also took away shakedowns, which I did think was weird, but it kind of makes sense. Season 1's Battle Pass wasn't the best, but obviously this should be expected for Season 1 because they don't really have a certain theme. Well, back then they didn't, but now they kind of do, like with the Japanese theme. However, there were some really cool skins. The Battle Pass included skins like Shanta, Ronin, Lieutenant John Llama, Haven, Gumbo, Harlow, and Spider-Man, and the secret skin, the Foundation. This season introduced a lot of cool items as well. Of course, we had the MK7, which was the first-person weapon, and using a red dot sight. I don't think we ever had that before either. We had the tents that could store weapons for future matches, and of course we had the web slingers. I think this weapon was insanely well done. We'd never really seen a mythic weapon like this before that would allow you to swing around the map, and we had 2 new locations introduced halfway through the season. Tilted Towers was revealed under the ice, and Covert Cavern was made by the IO as their secret base, which was cool and added to the map. I think this season deserves to be an S tier, because it introduced so much to the game with fun new gameplay and lots of new mechanics that were really cool. And the introduction of 2 new locations during the season was really cool because we'd never really seen 2 being added. We've seen 1, but not 2. This brings us to Season 2 Resistance. We had new locations added like Command Cavern, the Fortress and Synapse Station, and the introduction of the Collider later in the season for the event build-up. When players loaded up into this season, they instantly realised that building had been removed for 2 weeks. And for this to work, they added new features so that players would be able to last longer. The first feature that was added was Overshield, and this would add 50 shield on top of your 100 shield. So basically players would have more health and they would be able to survive for longer. Mantling was added as well, and this would allow you to climb onto structures that you may not be able to reach without builds. And yeah, I just can't imagine Fortnite without it today because they still have it into the game now. And Tactical Sprint, which would allow you to move faster around the map, and in open terrain, obviously you didn't have building to protect yourself, so you needed to move quicker. I think the Battle Pass was decent. It definitely had some standout skins, but there were definitely other ones that I feel didn't fit the theme enough. We had skins like Suki 2.0, Gunner, the Imagined Kiara KO, the Origin, Orisa and Doctor Strange, and the secret skin being Prowler. Yeah, but this Battle Pass just didn't make sense to me really. Like, I don't know why the Prowler was there. Like Season 1, Season 2 also had some really cool, unique items, like the new tanks that the IO created, the cow catcher that could be put on vehicles, and repair torches that would heal the vehicles. It is sad to see that the repair torch doesn't really have a feature in the game anymore, because obviously we have them fuel stations that just heal the car automatically in Chapter 5 and 6. So yeah, the repair torch is kind of useless now. Something I really thought was cool about this season is the map changes. Throughout the season, the 7 would take more land from the IO, and eventually the IO would be really small. So the IO resulted into creating the Collider for the event to prevent the 7 from taking over everything and just destroying the map. This was a really strong event, and by the end of the season, everything went back to vibing. I think this is a really underrated season and definitely deserves an A tier. But yeah, it definitely had some useful features. I just don't think it's S-worthy, and that's mainly for the fact that the Battle Pass definitely lets it down in my opinion. So this brings us to our next season, Vibin', and this was basically just to relax after the war with the IO from last season. We had 2 new locations at the start of the season, Rave Cave and Reality Falls. And throughout the season, many of the locations changed, and they would mainly change into buildings we have seen in the past. So like Coral Castle and Neo Tilted. Storm Sickness was added this season, and this was basically just to prevent anyone from camping in the storm because you would lose a significant amount of health if you stayed in the storm for too long. The Battle Pass again wasn't the strongest I think we've seen, and definitely followed the pattern of Chapter 3 Battle Passes not fitting their theme really well. I think most of the skins were really generic and basic, but then you did also have the fan favourites. The Battle Pass included these skins: Evie, Snap and Adira, Stormfarer, Malik, Sabina, Darth Vader, and the secret skin being Indiana Jones. So yeah, I just think this Battle Pass was really random, and a few skins just don't make sense to be in the Battle Pass, but yeah. We had new items like the twin shot shotgun, which was okay. I don't think it was the best, but definitely not the worst either. The DMR, which was a really cool weapon, and I do actually really like this weapon in the game. The hammer assault rifle, I do like this weapon, but I just don't think it's the best we've had, but yeah, definitely a cool weapon. And of course the reality seeds. This was similar to the tent. It would grow over matches, and eventually the reality seed would get to the point where it would be mythic. You could pick it whenever you wanted, so you could wait until it grows to mythic, or you could pick it when it was green, and it would give you the loot at the start of the match. So yeah, it was just a really quick way of getting weapons at the start of the match. We saw the Ripsaw launcher, and I didn't think this was the best weapon. That's why I was going to leave it out of this video, actually. I wasn't going to mention it, but yeah, it was alright. Definitely not the best, and it wasn't really useful, to be honest. We had a collab with Dragon Ball Z. This would give you the mythic Kamehameha and Nimbus Cloud. And yeah, this definitely made for some unique and fun gameplay, and I did really enjoy these mythics. This season is definitely a C tier in my opinion. I don't think it's the worst season we've ever seen in Fortnite. But then again, it's definitely not the best, and it doesn't match any of the seasons in Chapter 3 in my opinion. And finally, we have Season 4, so let's move on to that. This season added Chrome all across the map, and this was the main villain of the season. And you could essentially turn into Chrome and travel faster across the map, which was really cool because I don't think we've ever seen that before in Fortnite before this. And yeah, it was just really a unique way and a really cool way of getting faster across the map. They added a slide kick feature where you could kick enemies. And I don't know why I even mentioned this, to be honest. Because the only time I'd actually used this was to kick enemies off Spawn Island, and that's it. I've never actually used it in a game, I don't think. Again, fitting with the theme of Chapter 3 and with the questionable Battle Passes, this was just as questionable. We had skins like Paradigm Reality 659, Bites, Meowskulls, Lennox Rose, Twin, Spider-Gwen, and of course the secret skin being the Herald. Which I know I said Chrome was the main villain, but she does control the Chrome, so technically Chrome is the villain as well. We had new weapons, and I think these might have been the most unique weapons we have ever seen in Fortnite before. We had the Evo Chrome weapons, and these would level up in rarity and get higher in rarity as more damage was dealt to enemy players. And if I do remember this season right, you could just do this on animals, so you could get like a mythic weapon by just damaging wildlife like wolves, boars or crows. We had the explosive goo gun, and you could shoot a trail of explosives around, which did do quite a lot of damage if used in the right way. We also had the Cobra DMR, and I can't really remember this weapon too well, but I think it was just as good as the DMR, so yeah. We also had the Halloween event, and we actually had Howler Claws. Now these actually look like a reskin of Wolverine Claws, but like someone mentioned in my other video that I did a while ago, if you want to check it out, it's most forgotten items in Fortnite. But yeah, they did let me know that it actually marks enemy players, so yeah, it isn't just a reskin of Wolverine Claws. We also had the Dialer Drop, which would allow you to spawn a supply drop on top of you. And you had the option to either pick a loot box, a health box, or a car box. We had the Grapple Glider, which would allow you to fly across the map. Yeah, it was a worse version of Jules' Grappler Glider, but I still think it was really cool. But yeah, this season definitely had some really good movement, as you can tell. We also had the Chrome Splash, which was an easier way to become a Chrome Blob and travel faster across the map as well. They added a Porta Bunker for zero build players. I definitely think this season was viewed differently because of the event at the end of the season, obviously Fracture. Obviously many people consider that as the worst event in Fortnite, and I definitely agree, but I do think the Prelude now owns that title. But yeah, I definitely think this season was really fun, and they did experiment with a lot of weapons, so I think we got to give credit to that. So yeah, I think people are going to consider this as a controversial pick, but I definitely think this season is a B tier in my opinion, and yeah, I do think that a lot of people are too harsh on this season. And I just think this whole season was really creative, so yeah. Yeah, and make sure to let me know your opinions down below. I'd love to see all your tier lists, because I am really curious what everyone else thinks of this chapter. Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy it. It does really help me out, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.